Hello and welcome to Sarat Chandra IAS Academy, where your dreams are our mission. This is Yatharth here. And today we'll be discussing about the Gulf and India, their international relationship, and the complete mapping associated with the topic. Alright. So this is from where I have picked this article, the strategic convergence. What is convergence? When two things eventually come together, eventually fall together. All right. So convergence between US, UAE, Saudi Arabia, and India. So what four things we are talking about? USA, UAE, Saudi Arabia, and India. So how can this benefit Delhi? That means India. And what kind of convergence we are talking about? It is strategic. So strategic involves all three aspects, whether it's geographical, it's demographical or cultural, it's economic, it's military based or security based, and other things. So we'll see all these aspects, we'll see what are the challenges involved and what is the way forward. But first of all, what's the most important thing for us is mapping this. So let's see the mapping portion first. All right. So this is Europe, Turkey here, and Europe will start from here. All right. This is Egypt, part of the African subcontinent. And it's connected here with the Sinai Peninsula and here with the Israel, Lebanon, Jordan. This is Syria and it's Iraq here. We are talking about the Gulf countries, which are Saudi Arabia and the associated countries here like Kuwait, Qatar, UAE, Oman, Yemen. The most important portion for us, just a second, are these sea and the straits here. So this is Gulf of Oman towards the Oman. All right, this is Strait of Hormuz. And this is the Persian Gulf. So Persian Gulf is only one side open, other side it's completely closed and surrounded by the Iran and the Iraq and Kuwait. All right. Coming this side, this is Gulf of Aden or Eden. This is the Red Sea. It's open towards the Mediterranean Sea by a small canal known as the Suez Canal. We'll see some other things also in the next map. All right. So this is Bab el Mandab Strait. And this here is the Strait of Hormuz. This is Djibouti here near Ethiopia. This is the part of Africa. This is Red Sea. Here it's Suez Canal. Let's see a little bit more of map. Please also remember these cities, these countries, sorry. These are Iraq, Kuwait, Bahrain, Qatar, UAE, and Oman and Yemen, along with the Saudi Arabia, the biggest one here. All right. This is the Gulf of Aqaba here in the Red Sea. Other side of the Suez Canal, which makes the Gulf of Suez. So remember these both, Gulf of Aden and Gulf of Aqaba. This is the Strait of Hormuz near the Gulf of Oman. So please remember this in the GS1 portion of mapping and geography. So question can come from here also. In last time question came from, just a second, I will show. Okay, I'll show it here. So earlier 2 times question has come from along the Mediterranean Sea. One time it came which countries border the Mediterranean Sea. So in the questions were Iraq also and Jordan also. All right, the last time in 2022 also a question came from the Mediterranean Sea about the Levant region. That what is the Levant region. So this we could easily identify from the ISIS or ISIL. All right. But in the question, if you didn't know that Iraq and Jordan faces the Red Sea, and Iraq is a landlocked country, then you could have easily eliminated these options. So this is why the mapping is important. All right. So let's see our topic. The new India-US relations on the Gulf is a major departure from the traditional approaches to the Middle East in both India and the US. In India, one of the entrenched principle of the earlier foreign policy. That means we are basically talking about the shift in foreign policy. In the last video, we also talked about shift in the economic policy. So this shift becomes a major theme for the UPSC also. That what all in context of the global world and India is shifting. What policies majorly are shifting, whether they are related to defense, whether they are related to production or trade or anything else. So the entrenched principle of the earlier foreign policy was the proposition that India must either oppose US or keep its distance from it in the Middle East. The recent meeting in the Riyadh between Saudi Crown Prince and the national security advisors of the US, UAE and India underlines the growing strategic convergence between India and US in the Gulf. So these three, when we talk about the India, USA and the UAE or the South, basically Gulf countries. So they are very different, both in the matter of their religious culture, in the matter of their economic outreach, in the matter of their strategic locations and the goals, what they aspire. But right now the globalization has reached such a stage where these countries are converging into each other for their common progress. So it also shows India's new possibilities in the Arabian Peninsula. So these are the Gulf countries. One is Bahrain, Kuwait, Oman, Qatar, Saudi Arabia and the UAE. So these are the countries which you should primarily focus on in this region. They are known as the Gulf countries because they are surrounded by the Gulf regions. Whether it's the Red Sea or the Persian Gulf majorly. All right. So they are also the member of the Gulf Cooperation Council, that is GCC. So traditionally, India pursued a policy of non-alignment, aiming to maintain neutrality and independence in its foreign relations. So this was the earlier policy. India historically prioritized its relationship with neighboring countries in South Asia. So this was India's policy. South Asia means Indonesia, Myanmar, Malaysia, Singapore, Sri Lanka here, Mauritius, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Nepal, these countries, Afghanistan, and also an Act East policy. So it concentrated on building regional alliances, resolving conflicts, and promoting economic integration with its immediate neighborhood. So there are many such organizations, ASEAN, BRICS. So in the past, India had limited resources to invest in projecting influences in regions beyond its immediate neighborhood. So this was the first thing. This was the first constraint which is being solved now. So India focused on its own domestic development and addressing internal economic issues, which somewhat constrained its engagement with the Gulf nations. All right. So in the past, so this we have already seen. It is just let's say repetition of all the things. So let's see this. In the past, India had limited resources. So also seeing India's deep ties with Russia. So this was a repeat in the PDF. Please don't pay attention to it. Let us begin from here. So seeing India's deep ties with Russia, India increasing its ties with US was also seen as a taboo in the past. So in the last video, we only talked about this when we talked about the currency. So it's not an option in the globalized world to choose either the West or the East. Each must go according to their own goals and aspirations. So because of Arab-Israel conflict of Palestine issue, there was a notion among the policy framers that India cannot be visibly friendly to Israel because the West is not aligned to the same goals. Now let's see what is the recent shift in the foreign policy of India. So after recognizing the significance of Middle East in the India's foreign policy, India started increasing its ties with the Gulf region. Please know that Gulf countries do not exclusively form the Middle East. Middle East is a combination of many regions which include the Gulf region. The landmark shift towards this was seen with the formation of four-nation grouping unveiled in October 2021 called I2U2 that brought the US, India, Israel and the UAE together. So this was the first integration. India shifted its policy by rejecting the notion that India cannot be visibly friendly to Israel and maintained a fine balance of ties with both Israel and the Arab nations. India's uneasy. Please also from here see the Arabs' outreach to Israel. That is a very good theme to focus on because without them being friendly, India couldn't have reached to an agreement with both these in making the IR. India's uneasy relations were also transformed with two Arabian kingdoms, Saudi and the UAE, into solid strategic partnerships. Let us now see what is the significance of having good international relations with the Gulf countries. Just a second, let me change to pen color. All right. So first is countering terrorism and Pakistan. So Gulf countries have recognized the economic importance or the importance of remaining economic in the world, the importance of remaining relevant economically in the globalized markets. So that's why they have had a very strong drive against the terrorism. So if India shares its anti-Western lens in the Middle East, the US would lead the West to discard its pro-Pakistan bias in thinking about the relationship between the subcontinent and the Gulf. They can help India in countering terrorism as well. Pakistan's continuing strategic decline makes it a loss less relevant to the changing geopolitics of the Gulf. So India's rise will mark Pakistan's decline with the USA. USA have had a very strategic relationship with the Pakistan because of its moves in the Afghanistan in the last 2 decades. But now with the Afghanistan gone, Pakistan relevance has also gone. It has lost its employment, which was funding its economy, and India's chance to rise has arrived. Gulf nations have seen an ideological shift from religion to nationalism. So they have, let's say, from the earlier, let's say, Sharia laws or the Wahhabi laws, they have shifted to the nationalism. That means a common globalized nationalism or a global nationalism. So both these terms may seem oxymoron to be put together, but the global nationalism is what is considered nationalism globally, to confer to the ideologies of these global type of a country, and this is more liberal. The engagement with them would also help India overcome the dangerous forces of violent religious extremism within the subcontinent. All right. The Gulf countries involving Saudi Arabia, the UAE, Qatar and Kuwait are among major oil and gas producers. So this is the economic outreach. And India is heavily dependent on the Gulf countries for its energy needs. They also are thriving. Thriving means trying basically to progress in a field to reduce dependence on the oil in the long run, which could be beneficial for India as well, because India is foremost in the renewable technology. So this can become a matter of trade. Between 2014 and 18, the total renewable energy electricity installed in the Gulf countries, Gulf Council states, increased by over 300%, or basically 3 times. UAE, Saudi Arabia, Oman, and Bahrain are the members of International Solar Alliance initiated by India. Please specifically read about this also. Where are the headquarters and in which year it was started. The Gulf countries have a robust economies with substantial investment potential. India seeks to enhance trade and economic cooperation with these nations, exploring opportunities for investment and profit in the field of infrastructure development and bilateral trade. It opens avenues for Indian businesses to tap into Gulf's lucrative markets. Lucrative means attractive. And benefit from their diverse sectors such as construction, real estate, finance, and tourism. Investment from Gulf to India has increased significantly during past few years. India can utilize its relations to attract more investment from the Gulf. Also, there is a free trade agreement signed between India and Gulf Cooperation Council. One more thing is, as we all know, that many people from India travel to the Gulf countries for job and employment. So India has received the highest ever remittances. UAE contributed the most after USA. The geostrategic importance is also very important. They are located in the Atlantic, where we need, let's say, little bit domination. So Gulf countries' locations allow India to participate in dialogues, initiatives, and organizations such as GCC, Arab League, and Indian Ocean Rim Association, strengthening its diplomatic ties as well as strategic partnerships. India shares historical, cultural, and social ties with the Gulf countries dating back centuries. You can even see in the IVC, even since then the trade has been going on. Strengthening bilateral relations promote cultural exchanges, tourism, and people-to-people interaction. Let's see now what are the challenges involved. So there is the Iran-Saudi rivalry, which is mostly a Shia-Sunni rivalry. Saudi is mostly a Sunni country, and Iran is a Shia country. The Iran's current economic aspects are based more and more on the terrorism, let's say, or the nuclear developments. And it is in line with the countries like China and North Korea, even Russia. So Iran is currently having rivalries with much of the West and the Middle East. So this can be an issue because whenever there is a rivalry or war, it produces instability. Instability, whether it is regional, demographical, or economic. I'll give you an example. So right now, you may be knowing that there is a crisis in Sudan. So in the Sudan crisis, Indians have to be airlifted from there. They are coming to Delhi basically. So had there not been a regional instability or crisis, these people might have been working their regular lives or regular jobs in the Sudan. Such a way, we can see in the Russia-Ukraine war as well. So it has produced instability in much of the Eastern Europe. Many nations, whether it is Russia, Ukraine, Crimea, many people have lost their life, their jobs, their entire life that they built around. So these are the issues. These rivalries produce a regional instability. The similar Yemen civil war. So Yemen is also going through a civil war. So Yemen is also going through a civil war. Now the civil war is supported by various other parties, various other factors. So this also changed the dynamic in the international relations and also changed the dynamics in the economic relations. You cannot play both the sides. Either you have to choose one or the other. So that's why it also becomes an issue. One thing is Qatar's diplomatic crisis. So Qatar has been hosting the Afghanistan leaders also. And it has various other diplomatic issues that are not in line with the India's policies. Other thing is the Syrian war. So there is a large scale war in the Syria and extremism with the groups like ISIS and ISIL, other things, which are producing terrorism in the Lebanon, Jordan, Syria, and other related countries, majorly in the Sahel region of the Africa. And they are also spread to the Iraq. So these are the hub of the terrorists, these countries. They can produce some kind of regional instability. Other things is China's moves in the Gulf plus Africa. So China is making heavy investments both in the fields of economy and infra, and it can create some issues for the Indian aspirations. So what is the way forward? One is economic cooperation frameworks, other is cultural exchange and people to people contact, trade diversification. So let's not stick to the oil and the gas. Let's trade in the renewable energy, agriculture, services, health, space technology, and other things. Other thing is encouraging investments in sectors like renewable energy, healthcare, agriculture, etc., which I already talked about. India has also signed a CEPA with UAE. Signing such agreements with other Gulf countries would also help India diversify its trade. So this is all that we talked about. You can make short notes of these lectures and add the details later which you like to explore. You can explore yourself and add the other notes by yourself. So this was today's lecture. This is Yatharth here signing off. I'll see you again in the next video. Thank you very much and have a very good day. Keep studying and be bright.